I want to introduce you to a boy named Lee. Lee is a sixth grader, and in one day during middle school, in between classes, Lee accidentally bumped into a girl in the hallway, and that girl called him a name that has wounded his heart and has negatively impacted his life for the last 30 years. A name his sixth grader's unconscious mind and limited understanding of the world put a twisted meaning to, and it became a part of his identity. A name for some people might possibly just roll off their backs, but for Lee, this name crushed his little heart. That name that the girl called him was Freak. Many children call each other names every day. And do you want to know why? It's because in times of transition, we can become most vulnerable. Well, puberty and the teenage years are one of the most transformational transitions we go through in life as human beings because our bodies are rapidly changing in a relatively short period of time. Our hormones are rapidly changing. Our identity of discovering who we are is rapidly changing, and our minds are rapidly growing and learning, and our egos are rapidly growing as well. And in these transitions is when the devil likes to strike. The devil likes to enter a person's body through and during this time through popular emotions such as fear, anger, sadness, boredom, jealousy, insecurity, the fear of being judged, the fear of not being liked, being considered an outsider, which really means fear of not being loved. For this girl, because she wasn't taught properly and ignorantly didn't know better, she allowed this divisive energy that lurks in the hallways, just waiting for somebody to let it in. Well, she unconsciously let it inside of her, and it used her body to call a little boy named Lee a freak, which caused him tremendous hurt, fear, rejection, and ultimately separated him between his creator, which is mission accomplished for the devil. Lee was sent to me from the divine so I could share my gifts with him, because think about this for a moment. Not one person in his life had the ability to help him. If they did, they would have already helped him by now. I want you to put yourself in Lee's shoes and think what it must feel like to experience having this giant hurt inside of you, and everyone that walks past you or you meet in your life cannot help you heal from it. The adult Lee has tried many things to find the solution and try to solve this deep emotional wound. He's tried traditional therapy. He's even received some NLP training, which is where I met him in a Facebook group where he made a post and he was reaching out for help one last time. And I read some of the comments from so-called experts, which were telling him from their own limited point of view that what he was struggling with either cannot be solved, or they were just, I guess, throwing spaghetti at the wind or spaghetti at the wall. They were just guessing. And I was divinely guided to reach out. And not only did we release this impossible problem to solve in less than 60 minutes, we cleared, healed, released, and connected about 15 other things with it. Every one of us knows a Lee or has experienced what Lee has gone through, but very few people really unconditionally heal from it. If you're watching this and you need help or you want to learn the tools to help anybody who crosses your path, the link is in the description below to schedule a complimentary meeting to chat. Let's watch now and see what you can pick up of what I did differently for Lee that finally worked. Howdy, Lee. Can you hear me?
Yep. Nice to meet you.
Awesome. So basically just the high level of today, it's real simple. So you put a post out in a Facebook group, kind of just reaching out for help, right? Just saying that
Yep.
for like a technique to help overcome any fear of approaching strangers. I've been struggling with it for a while, haven't found a solution. And then other people kind of said, try this, try this, try this. And some people had, their own resistances to like actually being able to help, because what I found when it comes to this work and when it comes to helping people, the helper, so to speak, can only help somebody to the level of healing and depth and transformation they've gone within themselves. So
Yeah.
something deeper than the person's gone, they won't be able to help.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of the things you tried before then?
Uh, it's more particular like talking to women, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Uh, because have you do you know what the pickup artist community is?
There was a show on MTV. I don't know if you saw it. I can't remember what it was
Yeah.
called. They call it,
Yes. The pickup artist with mystery.
there we go. They call themselves Mystery. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I've tried that, and supposedly they say the fear of talking to people never goes away. It's just something you have to deal with. And I don't think that's necessarily true because, for example, in high school, if there was like a woman, and let's say that I was going to need to, you know, go apply for a job, I had to wait until a guy went up. But then I can at least have conversations with women, but I still have like if you were to have me go up and talk to someone I don't know currently, I don't have the fear in the stomach or the butterflies. I just don't do it.
Yeah. We kind of talked a little bit before that, like I was kind of sharing with you that all, and this is for like 100% of human beings that I found, like all adults, let's just say, if like one of the things I say is adults don't actually have problems.
Yeah.
Adults have obstacles to overcome and like just things to learn, but and challenges to learn. But anytime an adult actually has a problem, like they're stuck or they're regressing or there's a really big emotional attachment to it, it's 100% from the past. And it's basically like people don't realize, people when they see people, they think they're the age of their bodies, which
Okay.
sure, the body's that age, but what people don't realize is so many times people we get split from ourselves and we can't experience something fully when it's a traumatic experience, when we get really hurt or like really afraid, and we're younger, we split from ourselves psychologically and spiritually. And so another part of us continues to go on for survival, and then we evolve, but another part gets stuck in the past. And then when similar experiences like the one in the past happens in life, it triggers that response, it triggers that part. And then we start to behave exactly like we did in that moment where we got stuck, if that makes sense, or separated from ourselves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so the whole thing when people say like, the fear of talking to people never goes away. Yeah, I'm with you. I 100% disagree. It's like I've so many things that people say are impossible. I've done, for the last 25 years, not only myself, but other people like daily. And it's all about getting to the root cause. And so many people, they'll project. Well, actually, everybody only speaks from their point of view. And if they haven't experienced it, they don't know the solution. They're going to tell you what oh, this will never work, according to them. There's probably a way, but it's going to be hard for you to find it, according to that person. So I can go on and on and on, and everything we can always add according to you, because anyone
Yeah.
can only speak from their point of view, but their only point of view is one point of view out of an infinite point of views.
Yeah, because I saw those comments people were making. I'm like, these people don't seem like they're mature enough to take other viewpoints.
Yeah, yeah, I thought that was really interesting too, and I'll just be frank and blunt. I started my NLP training in 2004. And I didn't know any better, if that makes sense, in terms of like I started from a school that was a second generation, which means the first generation got created in the late 1970s, um and basically there's two people that not good, bad, right or wrong. It's just two people that weren't in psychology. They went and studied with three of the best psychologists and psychotherapists in the world that were getting unprecedented results. And it wasn't
Yeah.
because psychologists or psychotherapists, it's because they were them. And they broke through things with depths within themselves. And so they studied and said, there's got to be a recipe, there's got to be ingredients, there's got to be something to crack the code that we can put it all into one thing, and then we could repeat it and other people can repeat it and get results. Like it's kind of like hacking kind of a thing or shortcutting or
Yeah.
efficient. So the cool thing about it is it didn't exist before, and then all of a sudden it does exist. But what I found to be true, the first generation people, neurolinguistic programming, so far I haven't seen not one of them work on their egos. Not one really brings the spiritual side to it, which everything comes from the source. Not really
Yeah.
just like a personal thing. And so I never did that training. I got into generation two right away. I didn't know there was a difference because I didn't know any better. I was ignorant. And my teachers went and studied from the founders, but all the generation two is humanistic neurolinguistic psychology. It's people who had their master's or PhD in psychology, but they knew that their psychology was a limited system. They weren't being able to help the people how they can. So they started going outside their psychological box, their collegiate trainings, the Freudians, the Jungians, and all that. And they went and like learned these techniques, and they started to integrate it with their basic psychological principles, not the psychology where um,
You're talking
label.
about tradition. You're talking about traditional talk therapy, old school is what you meant. I tried like traditional therapy. I never got anywhere. I just talked for years about the same point, and I felt like, this is not working. I did some hypnosis and some NLP stuff, and I noticed I've gotten results. So that
And
just tells you everything you need to know.
you know, I can't say traditional therapy is all bad, and I can't say it's all good. I think it all comes down to the individual therapist. And I can't say
Yeah,
coaching is good or coaching is bad or NLP. I can't say anything is good or bad. I can't say religion is good or bad. Like,
yeah,
jujitsu. I can't say jujitsu is good or bad because
yeah,
there's my favorite kind of style. The 10th Planet's my favorite kind of style. Other ones like
yeah.
Gi, I could do it, but I'm not a big fan of it. So, but everything has to do with preferences. But the point is, like traditional therapy as a whole, or traditional psychology, it's more from people going to school, learning theories and things that other people did to then kind of talk to people and then put like labels on them and things like that. And it's not always like that, but a lot of it is. And the how I came into it, the humanistic neurolinguistic psychology, it's finding what labels, which is really what the problems that people are struggling with, and help them to remove it. So it's not even about putting labels on, it's taking labels off that aren't helpful. Um, and then, going to India 6 times and, my own experience, I've added some like higher consciousness, spiritual integration with a 2.0 to make it a third generation. And it's extremely
Yeah.
effective, extremely helpful, gets results, gets really quick results. So I'm excited to share some of that with you today.
Yeah, because I have like a basic like hypnotherapy certification, and I've taken NLP, not certification program, but one that was like catered it was called pretty much NLP Create Your Life. So it was directly impacting like your direct life, not how to help other people. And so next year I plan on getting my NLP um, practitioner, and then after that, eventually master practitioner. So that's where my journey is at this point.
Got it. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So then, we kind of talked a little bit, Lee, about in the past, or well, we talked a little about it. We chatted before this meeting. Is that I kind of said that all issues that anyone has, or all the issue that you're having, it didn't get created. It's not created every day. You're not creating a new thing. It got created in the past, and then you kind of said you
Yeah.
kind of pointed it to a time in, was it high school?
Middle school.
Middle
The
school.
first time I remember is I don't remember the exact thing. I just remember the end result that some girl called me a freak, and then I think it started going from there. And then eventually I got to the point that I couldn't just have conversation. Well, I was never great with talking to women even then. But I mean, well, I'm so much better now, but I'm just saying I was never, even before that, during that time, I was not great at talking to women. I just had a fear, I guess, forever of talking to people like, especially women I did not, or girls, because that would have been, middle school. I don't think you can call them women because they weren't technically women yet, but you get
Right.
what I mean.
Yeah. So tell me more about this. Were you in a class or was it outside of a class?
We were, from what I remember, because this was so like sixth grade or seventh grade or so long ago. Based on what I can remember, I think we were going to gym and then I must have ran into a girl or like because we are all like merging to go to the locker room, obviously not shared locker room, but you know. And then I must have bumped into her and then she called me a freak and then I assumed that's what every girl would assume now going forward during that time.
And then you're about sixth grade.
Yeah, sixth grade or seventh. I can't remember exactly because it's not
Yeah.
like I wrote down the journal it like girls would have done back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. So can you just visualize and imagine that it's almost like the hand of God, so to speak, like just kind of goes back into that transition period between like going into the locker rooms and then just basically gently kind of scooping up you from that middle school time, sixth or seventh grade, and then just gently kind of bringing it to the room that you're in right now, that version of you or that younger you.
What exactly do you want to know? I can tell you anything you want to know.
Well, I just want to to I want to basically with your within your map, so to speak. I want to be able to bring that younger you from it's
Oh,
not you're in right now, it's not 2024. So whatever year that is and whatever place that was, and to bring it to right here and right now.
yeah, that would have been the 1990s. I don't remember. But I want to let's say 1996 because I can't remember exactly. But we'll just say that.
So if you can just visualize and imagine that 1996-year-old you is transported from 1996 to 2024 today in the same
Okay.
room right now.
Okay.
And let me know when you have a sense of that.
Yep.
And then very good. So go ahead and tell me, what is that younger younger you wearing?
Gym clothes. I had much more hair.
Hmm.
So it was like, are you from Minnesota originally?
Yeah, from well, originally from St. Paul.
St. Paul, St. Paul?
The west side of St. Paul. So it's
Yeah. So I went to a school called John Glenn, if you knew who that is.
yeah, yep.
So it was, yeah. So it's, yeah, because I'm pretty much been from Ramsey County. So yeah. So we had red and white uniforms.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah. So I can visualize that. I can visualize almost everything. I can still remember the image to this day, even.
Yeah. And so let's do some things with that image because there's a what I call a deeper spiritual lesson behind this experience. And once you really learn that, you can let go all the things that just doesn't feel good to you anymore. So before she said what she said, you didn't internalize it and you didn't make that decision. She said something.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't even think, I never even thought about even remotely being a freak. I never thought anything was wrong with me. I mean, to that level, I always had ADHD. I mean, so maybe on that level, I would think partially I was a freak during that time, but I never visualized women, or should we say girls, during the time frame would have viewed me that way.
Right. And I can guarantee that they all didn't. And this lady girl might not have even done that the whole time. She just, what's so interesting is around that time period when youth, let's just say teenage years, that when people are going through a transformation, there's puberty, there's physical growth, there's, a lot of the, I guess, ego and self, who is the person, their identity. There's just a lot of things changing at once. There's these guys are the teenagers are more susceptible to more divisive energy, and that's like meaning like what do you call it, bullying, name calling. It's all just a lower vibration divisive energy, and sometimes people, actually, I mean, almost everybody's experienced that at one point, allowed to come through and basically like try to hurt each other. And it's just the issue is that if this happens when we're younger and if it doesn't get corrected, it will continue to like grow. Like for years, that what happened, but that can be reversed, pretty quickly. So you made a decision about like, oh, I must be a freak, and everybody is a generalization. It was a decision and then a generalization. I must be a freak because this girl called me a freak, and then now everybody must feel that All the girls must feel the same way.
Yes, exactly, to the girls. The other guys, that didn't matter to me on that level, but it was the girls. Now I imprinted that on my viewpoint.
And what's what was your definition of a freak as a sixth grader?
Strater, someone that uh, didn't have the greatest social skills because I also have autism, which we didn't know until years later. But yeah, I didn't have social dynamics, as they would call. I couldn't read social cues and having ADHD. So in school, I didn't really fit in anywhere, I guess.
Yeah, I hear you. Me either. So, so your definition of freak. So that's what your definition of freak was. You did 10th Planet for a little bit. So you said some classes in St. Paul.
Yes, but my base, after I did that when I was doing Gracie Jiu Jitsu, which I currently still do. So yeah, so in that area, I've always fit in the Jiu Jitsu world. It's just other areas I don't think I fit in as much as I could, or probably don't because that's just not my reality.
Yeah. What do you have you heard? Because I don't know what year it was. I'm gonna go ahead and say it was around 2019. I did a seminar at the 10th Planet in St. Paul, and it was called it was Richard Boogeyman Martinez.
I did one, probably oh, I'm trying to remember. Maybe 3 years before that, I did one with Eddie Bravo, and I did one with what was his name, Scott Epstein or Einstein, whatever he's called. So I did those. I took a few classes, but I just didn't feel like it really fit me
Yeah, I
because
hear.
of like the Gracie Jiu Jitsu system. Maybe that's why.
Yeah. And Richie Boogeyman Martinez, like they have a crew in California and they call themselves the Freaks, the Freakazoids. And they have like all kinds of like 10th Planet gear where they have like a freak like a carnival and stuff like that. So they kind of like they reframed it. So sometimes people can say freak is a bad thing. Sometimes freak is like a freak of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, would be known as a freak of nature kind of a thing. Or Lou
Yeah,
Ferrigno. Well, Eddie Bravo, because he was kind of really small and things like that, and
yeah,
then really crazy. So, um, is that sixth grade version of you open to upgrading and redefining his definition of a freak?
yes,
So, if you kind of put that definition, like if you can visualize the definition of the freak that he decided at sixth grade, and just kind of move it outside of his body and just put it off to the side for now,
okay,
and then what I would like for you to do. So if he is essentially your younger self, which would be kind of lower self and lower meaning like less evolved, and you are your current self right now. Well, there
yeah.
must be a higher future self version of you that has already solved this part of the puzzle of your life.
Future past 2014, 2024, I meant to say, or are you talking about before?
No, I'm talking about like 2000, 2050 or 2200.
Oh, that's what I figured. I just wanted to get, yes. Uh, my goal is to eventually become a healer. Well, I actually am because I have hypnosis and I've helped some people, not to the level you have, but I mean, I'm still in the practice stage, but I feel like I have a talent with that.
So can you invite the version of you in the future, your higher self that's already healed and solved this to be able to help your younger self?
Hell yeah.
So go ahead and just invite and visualize him to come and just stand right next to the sixth grade
Oh,
you.
okay. Okay. So I'm 41 now. I will be 42 on the 12th. How old will I be at that point then?
Well, it could be a couple years from now. I mean, you could presuppose the farther you go out, the more
Yeah,
resources you
let's just use the year you did because it's just easier as a vantage point.
use. The which one?
What did you say? What year did you say? No, for future point.
Let's say
Let's just use that.
2050.
Yeah. So what would that be? would that be 60 or something? Which is
Something like
good
that,
enough.
yeah.
We'll just say that. Yeah, I can invite him.
And then as you see him standing next to the younger you right in front, go ahead and have him. Well, let's talk about it first, but according to the higher you, if somebody says a freak, that could be their opinion, that could be their point of view, they could be having a bad day, they could be allowing divisive
Mhm.
energy to come into them. But what protective shield can you put energetically and auditorily between the 6-year-old you and then everybody, like so nothing negative can come in around him?
Um, let's see. Uh, Possibly stop using the word freak in the first place because it's a negative connotation. Uh,
Well,
Protecting my energy. Yeah. What?
for some people it's a negative connotation, for other people it's not.
Well, I'm talking about the viewpoint of if I was taking it from me at 60 talking to me in sixth grade, I would say that is a negative connotation.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, and I also realized I'm an empath, so I have to protect my energy levels too. So I would say start thinking, start using positive words instead of any negative words. And also, let's see, also probably just visualize awesome and positive, well, not positive thinking, but more positive outcomes, I guess. Uh, what else would you suggest?
Well, I would ask you, like, is your favorite Gracie Jiu-Jitsu person of all time the same as mine, Hickson Gracie? Or is it someone different?
I would probably say Hoist because he's the one that got the eyeballs on to
There you
the
go.
American so that we could actually do Gracie Jiu Jitsu in Minnesota because we didn't have it up until I think 2010 is when the first the Woodbury branch opened up.
Got it. So, what would happen if you imagine or visualize Hoist Gracie coming just basically into the scene, into the room, and he has a golden gi?
That would
That's
be freaking awesome.
that's perfect size for your body. That he puts it on you, and it's protection. It could be defensive, it could be offensive, it could be neutral. It's just like how Hoist can do anything, anywhere. He doesn't care where it goes. He's got a solution, multiple solutions for every situation.
That would be awesome.
So go ahead and have him put it on you, that part of you now, and have him tie up your belt, and have him like walk around a little bit, try it on, see what that does.
Do I need to know what color the belt is for this exercise?
You don't need to know. Your
Okay.
unconscious mind can choose, or it can
Okay.
give you just one.
Okay. Got it. It feels amazing.
And then let's test it out. So you got Hoist Gracie there, you got your higher self there, and you got this golden gi that you're wearing that's blessed by Hoist Gracie. And then, somebody says, "Hey, you're a freak." And what does that do to that energy field that you're wearing?
It probably doesn't affect me at all because there's tons of, as people would label a freak, because technically anyone who does anything outside of the norm could technically be labeled a freak.
100%. So then, is there anything else that needs to be released from that sixth grade version of you before we upgrade and integrate it?
Let's see. Probably the feelings I would feel, probably the keep telling myself I'm a freak, even though I truly don't have any evidence.
So you heard it, and then there's something inside that kept repeating it.
Yes, I kept reinforcing the behavior or the uh or the saying, even though, yeah, so other aspects of life later, I'd call myself a freak, even though because of that one incident, and I would keep reinforcing it and start adding to it like it was a book that I kept writing more chapters. The best way to explain it.
And what would happen if you had hoist, let's start a fire for you to either rip up some of the pages and burn them and see what that does?
I guess I couldn't write the story anymore.
Yeah, what if you burn the whole book?
I wouldn't even know where to start again.
You wouldn't know
The
where to
only,
start with the negative things.
no, yeah, because the only thing, I mean, if we're going based on the only memory I had is that, and if I don't have that, I can't really curate a whole entire movie, as they would say, because I only have one part, and so I can, so I can't really write the story anymore.
And how would your life change if you did that?
I could spend my energy on other things.
So that's fantastic. Is there anything right now stopping you from throwing that book in the fire?
Uh, Probably belief
Belief of,
of that I can get over this fear.
well, if you didn't have the book, you wouldn't
Oh,
have the fear.
okay. I see what you mean. Yeah,
Because like the belief is part of the book.
yeah, I guess I only have a title now at this point. I don't have any characters. I don't have any scenes. I don't have any way to create a trailer for the movie, I guess. So I guess I only have a title of a book, but don't have anything to write.
And you can focus, like you said, your energy on things that are more important and things that you want to do.
Yep,
How's that feel?
amazing.
So ask your unconscious mind, is there anything else that needs to happen in order for this part of you to fully reintegrate back to one total being and then grow up with the resources that it now has?
I guess erase the title even.
So erase the title with a eraser or scramble up the words so they don't
Uh,
make any sense.
Anything to make it so I can't even reassemble it or even rethink it. So whatever that is, even if that's, I guess, ghostwriter burning the book like he burns pe- people's souls, I guess.
And if that happened, if that book and the title got burned, then would there be any negative consequences to that?
I guess I couldn't use that as an excuse or also have that little last part of victim mentality anymore. I guess I can't play the victim anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and what has playing the victim done for you positively?
Nothing. I guess it was easier to make excuses to not try things than to actually go out and do things.
Yeah, and as you do things and try things, it's not about being like perfect or flawless. It's literally like there are no mistakes, there's only learning experiences. So you can try something. If something doesn't work the way you wanted, you just upgrade the strategy, you evolve and do better, which is really healthy.
Awesome.
So if there's nothing else, I want to address anything that's there, but if there's nothing else, then you can have that ghostwriter just torch it, burn it to free you, liberate you, so you have that really total freedom to be your more authentic, more true self, to try things, explore things, do things if you want, don't do things if you don't want, but you have the freedom and the choice.
Awesome. So does that also impact relationships I had after, or does that not necessarily we need to address?
Well, it's one of two things. The first thing is, yes, this does impact all the relationships that you had after, but there could be individual, how to explain this? Sometimes getting to the root of things as we're doing and clearing, healing, releasing, upgrading, evolving it will be like a domino effect upwards, if that makes sense, from like the past all the way up to the present moment. And that is doing that on some level. But I think it is really wise as you're bringing up, as your unconscious mind's bringing up to like, let's just check the relationships to see if there's anything else there that just needs to be upgraded, released, healed. As far as like the story and repeating it, that's taken care of, but maybe other behaviors or actions because of it might need some extra attention.
Yes, I would have. I dated people I shouldn't have. For example, I dated someone for 6 years who had borderline personality, and I didn't ask more of myself at that point. Uh, like I said, I dated people that were probably toxic or were not good for me, but I figured it was the best I could do, is the words I would use in my mind.
So if you were to have your present self, your sixth grade Golden Geese self, Hoist Gracie, and then your 60-year-old higher self, almost like a power team in a line from sixth grade, and you start kind of walking through your timeline to that next relationship. Like you said, the one where for 6 years and you didn't ask much of yourself, and ask for those like four kind of power resources to transport to basically it's almost like a file share, screen share, just to like give to that part of you the resources that that part needs to let that go and join the pack, join the team moving forward. Does that make
Yes, that
sense?
would be, yes, that would make sense, and that sounds awesome.
So go ahead and do that now for that part and let me know when that step is complete. You're ready for the next step.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so now there's five of you, right?
Yes.
And then let's walk the timeline up to the next time period that needs to get extra attention and resources.
Okay. And the next timeline is what time?
Well, I'm asking your unconscious mind to see, like, if you just eventually you're going to get all the parts of you, you're going to get to the present moment, and then we're going to integrate everything into one.
Yes. And I would say the last person I dated, I was trying to impress them. Uh, I wasn't acting as myself because I figured because she couldn't really deal with my having autism or ADHD. And she, in her words, was a control freak and had to control every aspect.
And so, what needs to be released or received for that part of you now in order to move forward?
That it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to let people go if they're not going to be beneficial. And it's okay to just cut the cord, I guess.
And before, during, or after you're cutting the cord, you can just visualize and imagine like a source of golden, like healing lights gently swirling around the top of your head and kind of entering that used to be that soft spot when you were a baby and going all the way down into the bottom of your heart. And once that is completely filled up with that infinite, limitless healing, the divine light, it can shine through and out to that relationship, completely cutting that cord and setting it right and just sending it on its way.
Yes.
And you can use as much as this infinite light as you need until you feel complete.
Okay. Okay.
Now there's six of you, right?
Yes.
And then you start walking forward on the timeline. Is there anything between that time period and now that needs to get resources?
Hmm, let me think. The only thing I can think of, like maybe a 2 month relationship uh, that didn't last. Once again, another person I probably shouldn't have been with.
And what needs to be healed, received, or released for this part of you now?
I would say just cut the cord and go about my day because it doesn't serve me to remember that memory or any of those internal representations, I guess.
100%. So if there's any sort of positive takeaways that your unconscious mind can mine like gold from that experience, go ahead and have your unconscious mind do that now while it again once again has that infinite golden healing light swirling around the top of your head, entering down because it's happened before, and the more you do it, it gets easier, stronger, more efficient. It can just shine to and through you out to that relationship, completely cutting that cord. Like you said, sending it on its way.
Okay.
Let me know when that feels complete.
Okay.
All right. Now there's seven of you walking forward down the timeline to the present moment. Is there anything else that's in between that relationship that's no longer there and coming to the present moment?
I would say the next thing would be to remove the needing approval, needing someone else's validation or internal validation, and just having my own and being okay, even if I'm by myself, to the point that it'd be cool to hang out with someone, but if not, I'm okay doing other things. That's where I ultimately want to be.
And can you have that higher self install it, download it, transfer it, give it to that part of you that just the kind of unconditional self-love. Like I'm good no matter what. And when I'm around people that are in alignment with my values and feel good to me, higher vibration, then it can, enhance it. But also if just me, I'm happy with myself and there's a lot to do, a lot to explore in life.
Yes, it can do that, and it would be awesome for that to happen.
So go ahead and have your unconscious mind do that now, taking as much time as it needs, and let me know when that step is complete.
Okay.
All right, feels complete.
Hmm.
So you're doing great. And then just have those eight parts of you continue to walk forward to this present moment. Is there anything in between then and now?
Let's see. I would say at some point, um, no longer needing validation from my dad or his praises or anything like that. I can't think of exactly how to phrase it, but you get where I'm going.
Yeah. Um, what I'm gonna just put that out there and see how you respond to it. But like in the spiritual world, like every single one of us when we're born, we see our parents like gods when we're really young, meaning that's why the peekaboo game works so well because our parents are there in existence and all of a sudden they cover their eyes. They're not existent because we can't see. and they take care of us, they do everything. And of course, it's not true, but it's just that's how we respond. They're like, they're everything. But then we get to a certain age when we realize we're not at the center of the universe, and our parents, like, we're not number one all the time. And then we get to a certain age where our parents, we realize like they're people too, and they have like maybe some of their own struggles or negative programs and things that they have. And but the need for let's just call it like divine the divine masculine or the divine father is always going to be there, but our parents can never give us that kind of love that we actually need. And even if all the people in the world turn around and said, okay, you're the king of the world and we're all going to do everything you say, it's still not going to be enough. So it has to come from a higher divine, infinite, limitless, unconditional source, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So can you ask for the divine father? So basically, like it's literally like the highest consciousness level of connected masculine energy, and it can be in whatever form works best for you, whether it's both right now, the divine parents, or just the divine father, so that you can take your father off the hook and put your divine father on the hook, so to speak.
Okay. Yes, I can still hear my dad, even though he passed away years ago, in a spiritual guidance, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just so you understand where we're going.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's still giving me life advice, not like the negativity or anything anymore, but it's more like life advice. Like, I would do this, I would do that. The best way to explain it, what I can still hear.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So your dad's higher self would be the best version for that.
Yes.
So ask for that part of you to cut that cord between you and your dad, your, let's just say, physical dad or lower
You
self dad.
talk,
Go ahead.
yeah, you talk about past sense, right?
Yeah, because that part of you that needed approval from your dad.
Yeah, because like the current one, you've seen Star Wars before, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's almost like I can, like, once Obi-Wan Kenobi passed and he saw Luke, that's the best way to explain what's going on currently.
Yeah.
So yes, and yes, I can cut the cord to that version of what you asked.
Yeah. It's like exactly. It's like Obi-Wan, a hologram kind of could show up, right? Like with Luke,
Yeah,
but younger Luke needs to cut the cord with Darth Vader, kind of a thing. And then
yes.
yeah. So go ahead and have that cord cut now. And then you can send like a new cord once that's done to your dad's higher self.
Okay. Yep.
And how that feel inside right now.
Feels good.
All right. And is there anything next between that time and the present moment?
Mm, maybe myself, re sitting up at night reliving every mistake I made, like I'm preparing for a parole hearing.
And where, okay, let's just do this. There's a lot of different ways we can do it, but let's just do it this way. So you're staying up at night. Are you in your bed? Are you outside of your bed?
In my bed, but this is past tense. I don't do this anymore.
Correct. But can we bring all these other resources? Can we bring your dad's higher self? Can we bring like Hoist Gracie? Can we bring your future
Yes.
in the bed as well?
Yes.
And they let them be your advisory team.
Okay.
And then like literally it can just be like, you know what, we got your back because we this is what we were experts at. So you do this, now go to bed. Like we got your back.
Okay. Yes.
And you can just have them transfer literally those resources to all the parts of you that ever stayed up, like all at once, actually.
Okay. Yes.
How's that feeling?
Pretty damn good.
Yeah, you're knocking it out of the park. This is awesome. So, what's next between then and the present moment?
Let me think if I can scan any memories. Uh, let's see, maybe in my 30s when I tried to talk to some women and I got rejected. And these memories are very visual.
How many memories? If you give me a number.
Okay, I can remember three. Let's see. One, like all these were like the ones I can remember are at clubs or bars. So one I can remember, I was gonna go up to talk to a girl. She looked at me and just said no, put her hand up and walked away. That's one.
Yeah.
Second one is I was gonna talk to a woman, and then she asked if I knew her, and she goes, well then, she goes, then let's keep it that way, and walked away.
What was the third one?
Third one, I was trying to dance with a girl on a dance club, and she put her hand up and just gave me the sign like, "Don't come near me."
And so, if we were to release those three memories, what would that do for you in the future? How would that change your?
I won't have an emotional anchor.
And are those memories three-dimensional or two-dimensional?
I can still remember them and almost feel them. If you're asking how, I can remember them and almost feel them like they're like it's a movie, and I can almost feel. If I was to close my eyes, I could almost feel like wind gusts. The best way to explain it.
And can you put all three of those movies on flat screen TVs right in front of you?
Yes.
Then can you take a snapshot of one scene in the movie, and then take those three pictures, those three pictures, and stack them on top of each other?
Hmm.
And then can you roll them up like rolling up a map?
Rolling up a map like we're going to put it away, or rolling up a map like we're going to look at it.
Probably roll it up like we're gonna burn it.
Yeah, but I'm saying it would be like putting it away, but just roll it up that way, and then we're going to burn it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Well,
can. Yeah, I can imagine that.
you can roll it up, you can crumple it, whatever works best.
Yes.
All right. And then Hoist Gracie's like, hey, remember that fire? Got that fire right here. And then so you can kind of like a basketball shot if you want, just toss it in the fire.
Okay.
And then that's burning up. How does that feel?
Very, very good.
That's excellent. All right. So what's next?
Let me think. Uh, let's see. Probably dumb mistakes I've made. Just little things, but all of them together.
What if you were to send this really kind of a cool saying, universal truth? People call it NLP presupposition, but I call it like a positive mental attitude because that makes more sense. But the saying is there's no such thing as mistakes. There are only learning experiences.
Okay.
What I mean by that, what that means is a lot of people think they try something in life and then it doesn't work out the way they want, so they call it a mistake. Oh, I made a mistake. But in acting, in the acting world, literally, what happens if somebody messes up their line? What do they say?
Can we do it again and let's have another take?
Yeah, cut. And then, all right, take two. It's a mistake. And so if we live our life like that, where if we try something, anything, doesn't matter what it is, and the thing that we do fails to get the result that we want, we try something different. We learn from that. What was our strategy? What was the behavior? What were the words? What were the strategy? And anchor that this does not work. It's a positive thing to know that this didn't work and never repeat it again, just because it's not going to give us results. So then what can we do differently? How can we adjust our approach, our strategy, and then with that information and make a better, educated decision or wise decision. So if you live like that and do that more and more and more, you just get better and better and better. But the only people that actually have mistakes are the ones that don't know how to learn from their past experiences. The ones who learn from their past experiences, they make no mistakes because they keep learning.
Okay.
How does that sound to you?
Sounds good.
So ask for that strategy, that belief, that mindset is like there are no mistakes, there's only learning experiences. And if you try something that doesn't work, try something different. But don't repeat the thing that didn't work because it's only going to give you the same results, which is insanity. So go ahead and just give it to all those parts that did mistakes. Just go, like, just send over. There are no mistakes. There's only learning experiences, and it does require you consciousness conscious awareness to actually sit down and give it the respect to really, I did this and it didn't work the way I wanted to. What did I do? And then, like, you can even write it down. Doing this equals this. Okay. It's kind of like Edison in a way. Like, I'm never going to repeat this light bulb, strategy because it didn't work. So, but I'm one step closer for making it work. So that it's going to definitely take some reflection time in the future because you're going to try things and it's not going to work the way you want because there's something to learn there. That's why mistakes happen, is because, like they say in jiu-jitsu or sports all the time, either you win or you learn, not win or lose. In MMA, they say it a
Okay.
lot. Either you win or you learn. That's what the L means.
Yes, and in NLP they say there's no failure, only feedback.
Correct. Correct.
Yes.
All right. So as those are being transferred to those parts, what's next before
Uh,
we integrate?
I'm, I'm trying to think. It's hard to find memories when you're not trying to find them now.
Well, your unconscious mind is just going to automatically bring up what needs to get worked on today.
Yeah, it's easy to find memories when you're dwelling on it, but it's a little now that you're searching for it, it's a little harder. Let me think. Uh let's let's see. I backed into someone at work and took off years ago.
And then part of you still holding on to that. And then are you able to let that go, cut the cord from that experience, but also take the ownership of doing something different next time?
Yes, because I'll pay attention better next time.
But pay attention. But if you do bump into somebody's car, you just,
What?
do the right thing.
Yeah,
Be a man, step up and then communicate, make it right.
yeah,
So if you're willing to accept that, just taking ownership, responsibility, and of course being more aware so you don't get in those situations. But if you do, you handle it, then go ahead and cut that cord between that internal representation, that experience.
yes, but sometimes my mom or brother will bring it up.
And if you cut that cord and they bring it up, how do you respond differently?
Let's see, I made a mistake and I haven't repeated anything like it since.
And then what would you like me to do about it? You can say that.
Yeah,
Or do you
yeah.
know anywhere that has a time travel machine so that I can go back and correct it? Do you have any good leads on
Oh, interesting. Never thought about it that way.
Flux capacitor. Yeah, you can ask them if they have a time travel machine. If they keep bringing it up and you say, well, let's figure out how to do quantum leaps. Because then otherwise, but you letting it go is a good thing. You still there with me?
Yep. Yep.
Got
All I heard was you were cutting out. Okay.
got
Yep. Oh, we're back. Yeah, I'm still here.
got it. So I was just basically saying,
Yeah, the last thing I heard is, do you know anyone who has a time travel machine? And then I said, I never thought about it that way. And then I couldn't hear the last thing you said.
yeah. No, just I'm just saying, like, if they ask you about it, and then just ask them if they have any good leads on a time travel machine, so you can go back and make a different choice and see what they say. Are you cutting out again?
Nope,
Okay,
I'm still here.
cool. All right. Anything else before we do the final wrap up?
Gee, let me think. I'm trying to dig and see if I can find anything else. Uh, let's see. Dated someone in high school and they never took responsibility for anything. And it's almost similar to the other incident with someone I dated for 6 years, how it was always my fault, how something they did.
So can you ask your unconscious mind to send the resources that's been working so well this whole time today to not only this part of you, but any other parts that might need it right now?
Yes, I can do that.
How does that feel?
Pretty damn good, like everything else so far.
That's awesome, Lee. So let's have your unconscious mind and bring all the parts that were in the past but got healed, released, upgraded, and bring them to the present moment so that they all can kind of merge into one body.
Okay. Okay.
That one body can also merge with your body so that all the parts become reintegrated back into one total being that's connected, has resources, full of communication, peace, and integration now.
Okay.
And when that process is complete, just let me know how that feels and what that's going to do for you in the future.
Okay. And what that's going to do for me in the future is to probably not have any more baggage.
And when you don't have a baggage, what do you have instead?
I guess peace and an empty bag now.
And you can fill that bag up with whatever you want that's positive. or let the bag go completely.
Interesting. I think that's what I'll do is let that bag metaphorically go.
Because if you don't hold on to things, you're just being more present in the moment and you experience the things fully, and then you just go on to the next experience.
Okay, awesome. Yes.
So that's pretty awesome work that we did today.
Yes, I appreciate it.
I'm glad you reached out. I'm glad you put that post out and then I responded and then we got to do this because it's a really big deal of what's possible and you knew on some level it was and then but we do definitely have to team up in life in order to move forward. There's just certain things that different people on the planet specialize in, and that's why we become the best versions of ourselves, so we can actually be valuable to other people, but also have relationships where, they can provide value to us too.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any other questions before we end up for today? Because you just did great.
Yes, I had a question not related to this, but I mean, like, how did you get to the point where you started charging people? Because I'm in the practice stage, but I haven't integrated to the point of actually charging or marketing at this point.
I started off with my school, original school was 14 months. It was a 14-month program that included, it was 1 week in a month, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So
Yeah,
27 hours times, it was like like a 250-hour program. Um, but we had to do what's called case studies. We had to do it was about a 2 to 3 hour coaching session that we had to go through and we had to record it and do an intake, do an assessment, get to the root cause and give them some sort of upgrade. And we had, I think it was, let's say around month 10 that we started to do it, or month 11, um, out of 14 months. And some of the students struggled with it, but I did 50 of them because I felt like, I was a Lamborghini my whole life with the gas on and the brake on. And then I got these tools, the brake started coming off. And so I went through 50 people, complimentary. Every single one of them had profound transformations like you're experiencing right now. And then people just started to like, I was so passionate. I was so caring. I was so willing to go above and beyond. Part of my life's purpose was to help people. So I was all into it. Then people started to wanting to pay. So then I started to like, I had to work on my own mindset because I grew up in a poverty place, poor neighborhood, and nobody in my family, could teach me wealth consciousness. So I started charging really little, which was great because I was getting paid, something's better than nothing. But then I started studying books and studying like business and had mentors, and I started to like incrementally increase because if I got full, my calendar and my schedule got full, then I can actually increase my rates. And I got full again, increase.
yeah,
And I basically build like a whole system that starts off with like somebody could just know that they have a calling to help people, but they don't have the tools. They know that things are missing. So they receive our training. And then we walk them through how to build the business side too, because, it's
yeah,
what I've been doing for the last 25 years and very
yeah,
successful. And I turned around and said, like, look, so many people that are struggling to help people because a lot of people aren't helping helpers. And a lot of helpers are kind of doing it on their own because that's how, if no one's going to do it for us, we got to do it for ourselves. But that only goes so far. And really need to team up with a system, a mentor, like a
yeah,
step-by-step program, and then a mentor, and then the right tools, and then the repetitions and a community. And that's what I did and built, and that's what I offer to other coaches that want to become, either part or full time. They want to like help people because they're called to it.
Yeah. Awesome. I think that's all I have then.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's great meeting with you today, Leah. I'm really excited to check in with you in a little bit and to see, how things have upgraded and shifted for you. And I'll keep sending some good energy your way.
Awesome. I will do the same. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
not a problem. Have a great rest of your day and we'll talk soon.
Yep. Okay. Bye. Thanks.